Introducing
Pretty Girls Love Real Estate. Stories of everyday women breaking barriers and building wealth through real estate.
Let's get it. Boss. BOSS.
Hello, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Pretty Girls Love Real Estate podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Washington, and I'm super excited for my guest this week. Her name is Terri Brooks, and she is a commercial broker in the Atlanta market. Super excited to have her, and she also hosts her own series on Instagram called Shop Talk. So I'm, really excited to talk to her today. So thank you so much, Terri, for coming on the show. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much, Jessica, for having me. This is such a great opportunity, and I'm so enthusiastic about commercial real estate. So anytime I have a chance to talk about it and, demystify it a little bit for people, it's always a blessing for me. So thank you so much. How are you?
I'm doing great, girl. The sun's shining out here. I'm healthy and COVID-free and blessed. So
that's all we can ask for these days.
Amen. So I'm glad that you mentioned about demystifying commercial real estate because, as I mentioned before on another podcast, we are probably less than 1% of the commercial real estate industry as far as people of color and especially women. So I wanted to know how you, kind of got interested in commercial, how you got interested in real estate in general.
Yeah, so it kind of was like a culmination of experiences for me. So I had another business that I started when I lived in Chicago. At the time, I was the GM and property manager for the corporate office I was working for. And I was doing so many renovations and projects. And I just really, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And then a friend of mine, she has her own home restoration and a property restoration business. So roofing, siding, windows, anything you can think of. And I would help her because as women entrepreneurs, that's what you do. You help a sister out. So most people don't know you can't see damage during the daytime. So I would go out with her at night so she could circle it for the adjusters. And I was like, man, I really love this real estate thing. And so I was working full time in the corporate world. And then I had my side business in logistics. And I got an opportunity to come back to Atlanta. And I was like, my logistics business was taking off. So I was like, I'm going to leave and I'm going to make this thing work because, I can live off of this. And then I quit my job and then I hated doing it full time. So there's a difference, right? It wasn't a side hustle, but, I was only doing it such a small portion of the day or, on the weekends to do it full time. And as you know, it's an 80-hour, 100-hour a week gig, right? And so the logistics business, I was mostly working with people virtually. So I'm an extrovert. It was very isolated and I just had a really hard time with it. And I was telling one of my friends and she was like, you should go into real estate. You'd be great at it. And I started thinking about my experiences and I said, well, I surely have been dabbling in real estate for as some aspect of my career, my whole career. And because I understood buildings and properties by square foot, doing the restoration stuff, doing the renovations, doing the flooring, So I just said, I think commercial is the way that I want to go. And I took my test. I can't even believe, now that I'm in commercial real estate, I can't even believe that it's the same test.
I know. It's like you learn everything is catered to residential, but it's wait, I'm not even dealing with any of that in commercial.
It's yeah. And so when I took the test, I passed it. And it was like fate because everyone said, well, no one passes on the first time, but I passed on the first time. And so I was like, well, St. George's get my $115 one time, and that is it. I'm not. So I got into it, and then I went to different brokerages, and I was like, I want to do commercial. I want to work with investors. And sure. They glad hand you, and then you sign up, and then they were like, we think you should do residential. So it actually took me 4 different brokerages before I found one that actually supported me doing commercial real estate and had someone on staff to actually help mentor me. doing commercial real estate. And then so that took a little while. So I'm, you know, in the beginning I was mostly like self-taught, which is why I think, pray God, you know, I'm so knowledgeable about it, because it's a lot of trial and error. You know, people don't want to give up the goods. So
Yeah.
so that's kind of like my journey. And I love helping people actualize their dreams. And having a residential home, you need it. It's great. It's wonderful. But I think getting into that brick and mortar space for a lot of people, not all, adds a added layer of sophistication to their business. And it's something that they've thought about, they've dreamt about, and you know, they're excited about, and sometimes so excited that they don't really go through the details and advocate for themselves like they should when it comes to signing a lease or purchasing a commercial property. So that's why I'm here.
Absolutely. So I know you work with a lot of clients that are like salon owners, barbershop, nail salon, which is, you know, usually predominantly our people.
Yeah.
Like you said, going through that negotiation and that contract process is way different than if you're dealing with a, you know, renting an apartment or trying to buy a house. So can you just talk about, you know, just explain that process a little bit? Because it's definitely way different.
Yes, it is definitely different. So I do work with a lot of beauty professionals. I mostly work in like the retail space. So that would include restaurants, coffee shops, things like that. And some creative folks, because they need, here in Atlanta, you have a lot of people in the film and movie industry. So it's very different. So we call it the matchmaking process, because I'm the real estate matchmaker. So it's the matchmaking process. So at the beginning of the matchmaking process, I really sit down and have a conversation, because we match people based on who their client is, where they live, their exit strategy. What are you trying to do after you know, get out, this lease runs out, or maybe your business expands and the building that you bought doesn't fit you anymore. And then, so your exit strategy, your budget, and your target audience. And so once we identify those things, it's either we come up with a plan. So I like to set a date and work backwards. Some people are ready right away to get started. Some people, you know, they need to do a couple of steps before we can start the search process. Because in commercial, when you identify, first of all, shopping for properties is very different. I find most of my properties by relationships now, driving the market. There's a very expensive database called CoStar that's wonderful and great that I pay for. It has a lot of great information. And because commercial properties, available commercial spaces, over 60% of what's truly available is not visible to the average person online.
Exactly. And
Right.
usually not on the regular MLS either.
No, they're not on the regular MLS. If you go to, like, you know, say LoopNet or Crexy or something like that, you catch some properties, but a lot of properties are on individual shopping center or REIT groups, like their personal website. So they don't come up. They don't pop up in your searches. So that's what I do. I talk to everybody. I look everywhere. So we go with the property search, and once we find properties that we like, sometimes before we even go look at it, landlords want to know, you know, how long have they been in business? Can you send over, you know, a 3-year cash flow? Do they have a business plan? You know, if it's a restaurant, do you have a menu for them? You know, if it's a beauty or a beauty shop, you know, what kind of plumbing do they need? And sometimes that cancels out any properties that we might look at, because the landlord might not be willing to do the type of build out that tenant needs, or the tenant, the type of build out that it needs, the tenant may not be able to afford that kind of construction. And then we move into, so if we find something, we like it, it's good, then we move into what's called a letter of intent. And a letter of intent is in residential, I guess you would compare it to, you know, it's kind of like that phone call that you have between agents before you do the purchase and sale agreement.
Right.
So going back and forth. So the letter of intent, it spells out. It's just that it's an intent. So it's a letter of intent from the landlord or from the tenant side to say, hey, this is the price per square foot that we're willing to pay. This is how long of a lease term that we want. This is the kind of build out that we want to do. This is what we're expecting the landlord to do. This is how much I'm going to get paid. This is how much,
Right.
so it spells out all of the really like the big chunks. The who fixed is what, when the pipe bursts under the slab kind of thing. And so once we get through that, the other agent and I, or landlord and I, we go a couple rounds, and then we move into the lease, if it's a lease, and then, or a purchase and sale agreement if it's a sale. And then, we close typically, not typically, but in leases, I've closed some in as little as 3 days, and some take a month. Just depending on how complicated the lease is. For purchase and sales, maybe about 30 to 45 days for office and retail, because you have to do environmental tests, you have to do surveys and things like that before you get out of due diligence. So in residential, it's different, because I think the longest due diligence I've seen in residential is maybe 14 days, something like that. So that's 3 times as much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it takes a little bit longer, but the checks are a lot nicer, so I can wait on it.
Yeah, and then also in some instances, like you can also, as the broker, get paid if there's a renewal period. So you might see a check 5-10 years down the road from a deal that you did. So that's
absolutely awesome. And not all, sometimes people, what they call cash you out up front. Sometimes you get quarterly checks, sometimes you get monthly checks, and like you said, for renewals, you get paid. And even if you have a tenant and the tenant decides to buy it, you get paid a commission of the purchase sale too.
Okay, so is there there's usually like a rule of thumb, like if I'm a restaurant or if I'm a new business going into, or even if I'm I've been in business for a while, like what's the rule of thumb where like this is the amount of space that I can afford based on my sales or based on my revenue I have?
So yes, it is about affordability, but for me that comes second. The first is, does your client live there or will they come? Because if you shouldn't buy or lease a space that is not easily accessible or desirable for your clients to come, because you won't make any money. And so it doesn't matter, that, you can afford a $10,000 a month space if no one's coming to use your business. So for me, I put the target audience first. And then once we say, okay, this is your target demographic, where do they live, where do they work, and then I go searching. I might use census stuff, I might drive neighborhoods, I know there's certain national retailers that are only in certain types of demographics, so I might identify ABC department store and say, okay, well, ABC department store is over there, their client looks a lot like yours, let's see what you can afford in this area. And then once we do that, then it comes to negotiating, and you can find different pockets. So for here, it might be, your demographic might be Alpharetta, and then it might be, which is like very north, and then it might be, in Jonesboro, say, which is because the demographics are very similar, but the price per square foot is completely different. It's completely different. So then we look at your budget. So there's not like a rule of thumb in this market, in the Atlanta market, because you have salon suites. So I have a salon suites person who has over 10,000 square feet. I have restaurants, who will never, a national client who will never want any more than 3,000 square feet. That's not the feel for for, well, I guess these are some rules of thumb. So, but for like CBD stores where they're selling like the extracted hemp, they never want to go over 1,000 square feet. Like actually 1,000 square feet is too big for them. They would like the 700 square feet, 800 square feet, square foot spaces.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was going to ask you, I'm glad you brought that up. Have you ever worked with any cannabis clients? Because I know that process can be a little convoluted and, there's so many laws that are still in flux with that right now.
Yes, yeah, we actually have quite a few of our clients, and on different spectrums. Excuse me. Some are want warehouse space for the extraction, just for extraction, and then they're like a wholesaler, so they ship it out. And then we have some retailers, so they want the spaces on main streets and things like that. So it's, some retail and some industrial clients, and it is. Thankfully, Fulton County, where I live and work, is very welcoming for the youth. Like they have all types of coalitions, and it's very welcoming, very, very welcoming. So a lot of people, it's not uncommon here. I know some people it's still kind of frowned upon, but we welcome it.
Yeah, when I was working as a retail broker, it was in New Jersey. So they're like still up in the air about officially passing the laws, but over the last like 2 years, a lot of people are still, trying to get that license, and now they're starting to find space. And like you said, there's different uses. It could be retail, it could be industrial, it could be to grow, it could be a lot of different uses for cannabis. Okay, cool. So how has the pandemic kind of affected your business from the tenant perspective and then also from the landlord perspective?
Yeah, so we went in lockdown, March? So between like March and maybe Memorial Day was rough. Like everybody else, right? It was rough, but I used the time to make new relationships with people and education, like continued education. I joined a couple of groups. Beth Azor, she started a freshman forum that said, because the last recession, 2008, we lost over 50% of the commercial real estate workforce, and they never returned after. So she started that as a part of, to help prevent that. And so I made a lot of just worldwide connections through that, which is been amazing. And any deals that I had going into it, quite honestly, I wasn't able to resurrect, but it was something about that Memorial Day time. We're busier than we've ever been pre-pandemic. So we're busier than we've ever been. And I think, it's for a couple of reasons. One, people think that the prices are going to be cheaper to get into spaces now. They're not yet. We're not seeing that yet. So people think like, oh, it's going to be cheaper because of COVID, and landlords are going to be desperate, structured a little differently. So we're doing good. Thank God. Knock wood, all that good stuff. But we're doing really, really good. We have a lot of rosters. Actually, I'm in lease with two people right now. We're working out the details. So we're doing quite a few deals, my team and I. And so it looks a little differently for tenants and I love it, because it gives you a chance to be very creative. So for example, one of the deals we're working, we said, okay, blank, our business is based on the office space around it. No one's in the office space right now. We'll pay as the percentage of occupancy for their surrounding office buildings. So if we're 100%, we'll pay 100% rent. If the office spaces are at 30%, we pay 30% rent. And that's easy to gauge, right? Because we can see, we keep up with the updates, things like that. And that's fair for everybody, because it doesn't make sense for a tenant to be in a place and it's a ghost town. But it's a great location. Another thing we're seeing is because what they call force majeure, where it's like it's no one's fault, which in this case, COVID, it's no one's fault. Saying like, okay, so because it's no one's fault, to keep everybody successful is we'll fully abate. If it's 4 months, let's say 4 months, we're shut down or we're operating at a minimized capacity, meaning that they're only allowed to operate at 20%, right? So we'll abate 2 months fully free, give 2 months free, and then the other 2 months to be added to the end of the lease. So that way, when everybody's back in the full swing of things, the tenant isn't worried about, catching up on back rent and, their sales and marketing and things like that. It allows the tenant to be successful, and it allows for a deferred, interest to be put on the end of the lease. It allows for the landlord to continue to make money, and more money than they would have originally. So it kind of just finding ways to keep the tenant successful and keep the deal sweet for the landlord.
Cool. That's why I love commercial too. You can get so creative with those deals, especially now when it's like unprecedented times. Like you gotta, switch it up and do something different. So what would you say to the people that, even before COVID were like retail is dead?
Oh, that's not true for us. Yeah, and I've heard it, and I kind of got into I was on this group call, and this guy, he wanted to go back and forth with me, and he was like, no, retail is dead. And I was like, it's not though, dude. It's not dead. It may be dead in the way that we knew it, the way that we thought of it, the way we envisioned it, but it's not dead, because people are doing stuff like ghost kitchens, right? So people still want to have a way to feed their customers, but maybe the big walk-in, sit-down, dine-in restaurant doesn't work anymore. So they're getting 300 square feet or 500 square feet where they can have their kitchen, maybe have 2 tables in there, operating on a delivery service or pickup only service. People are doing stuff like salon suites, where maybe it doesn't make sense for them to have the all of the overhead for a salon, but hey, I can come in here, I can do my suite, and I can still serve my customer. It is not dead. It is not dead at all. People are repurposing standalone office buildings as like communal art type spaces. When I hear people say that, I say, use your imagination. Right. Yeah, because it's not, and I get scared for the people who are thinking like that, because they're not adapting to the time, and their business is going to suffer for it.
Mm-hmm. I think the biggest industry that's kind of changing the game of retail is the fitness, because there's a million uses. There's like stretching, there's yogas in every way, shape, or form. You got like Orange Theory, yes. The CrossFits of the world. Like, there's so many different fitness uses now as well.
Yeah, and the thing is, there's only one of me, but I wasn't born to this earth alone, right? And so people have a natural desire to want to hug, touch, congregate. That's something that we want. And yes, there's, you can do a fitness app, but people want to be in there. They want someone to help them correct their posture, a little bit. So it's never going away, because we, as human beings, we desire companionship and partnership. So that's never going to go away. And then you have to think about the human aspect of what I like on my show, we call it the heartbeat behind the door. So the people who have that passion to, bring good coffee to people, or to bring good clothing, apparel to people, they're going to want to do that regardless. Like there is no stopping that drive in people. So that's what retail is based on people.
And now what's your experience like as far as the differences between dealing with like a smaller small business client and a national tenant?
So not much, honestly, because we specialize in spaces really like up to 25,000 square feet. So it's really like your medium box stores. And there's not a huge difference between the two. They, they both want your time, right? The only difference may be is that on the landlord side, it takes a little bit less convincing when you have a national tenant, because they have a proven track record. So you can say, okay, we're all over the country, buddy. Like, This is what we want.
And they got that corporate guarantee.
Yeah, they have that corporate guarantee. It's I think, you know, as far as working with tenants, it's not really that big of a difference. But as far as getting tenants in the door for the landlords, it's easier to get them in the door. And for small businesses, and I like to like always clarify, small doesn't mean poor. Small doesn't mean, you know, startup and no experience, because they're, especially in the Atlanta market, there's so many small businesses that have 4, 5, 7 locations, and they're still considered small because they're local, right? So you can, we do work with startups. I love startups, actually, because you train them right from the jump. Instead of like, you know, well, yeah, I got into this really bad deal 5 years ago, and I'm so unsure of all the realtors, right, or all the landlords. So, but yeah, so it's just they want your time, and then small businesses, I think sometimes they're really good at what they provide, whatever service or product that they provide, but rightfully so. With anyone, real estate is not their expertise. So, excuse me. So working with them, you know, it takes a little bit more hand holding.
Got you, for sure. So what, you know, after the world opens back up, what are some positive changes that you see on the horizon for commercial real estate?
So I think that, one, hopefully we're going to see a lot more women in commercial, a lot more Black women in commercial. I'm making that my personal mission to recruit. I think we're going to see a lot more Black women in commercial real estate, and because not everybody's doing residential, but a lot of people are doing residential. And I think there's going to be this, like it's showing now, there's going to be a big boom in residential for a while, because people are like, oh my God, I'm here with, you know, my spouse, the kids, the dog, the in-laws. We need more space. So I think that's going to go on for a while, but eventually that's going to plateau, right? Because people will get what they need. With commercial, I think it's going to rev up so fast, and I think it's going to be explosive, and there's not going to be enough hands to handle all of the business. So I think we're going to see a lot more people venture to the commercial side, because I mean, what's scarier than COVID right now, right? So it's like, to make that transition from residential to commercial. And I've had so many lunches and virtual meetings during this time, like, you know, what can we do? How did you get started? And I'm like, you just have to start, honestly. And then I think the malls, like the dying mall spaces, I think I predict a lot of those are going to be turned into like esports centers, because that's really big right now. So you know, repurposing that, have some hotel space, some retail space, and then like convention center space. Because that is huge. And it's funny, right? Because that's a virtual thing. You can do that anywhere. No, people want to stand around and watch these young people play
video games.
They want to see it. They love it. So I predict a lot of the dying malls. That's one of my predictions. 2, I think we're going to see a lot more high-rise multifamily spaces here in Atlanta. There's not enough residential, and not class A, more like class B, kind of high rise, class C, because a lot of workforce either in construction, retail workers, a lot of those people are moving to the Atlanta market. They're currently expanding our train system here, because they're anticipating so many people are going to be living in Gwinnett over the next 3 to 5 years. So I think that they need somewhere to live. So they need somewhere to live. So those are my 2 biggest predictions.
Okay, cool. And I'm glad you touched on about, you know, helping people of color in the business, because, you know, I got to ask you about that. Like, what's been your experience being a woman of color in this, you know, really non-diverse industry? And I know before you were talking about trying to have a mentor, having somebody to kind of show you the ropes, because it's not something that's like common knowledge.
Yes. So I have 1,000 mentors now. I believe that everybody should have 1,000 mentors. Just you're going to get something different from everyone. But my first, a man by the name of Sergio Ayala, who I love, is a Puerto Rican man. He's been in the commercial real estate game over 35 years, and he's amazing. And before I went to enter, and I mentioned the resistance I got at like previous brokerages. And it was all like, it's so like patting your head, like, it's okay. It's
oh, that's cute that you want to do commercial.
How sweet. Go sell some houses with your cute self. Right. No, that's not what I want to do. And so Sergio really like took me under his wing. And that was really important for me because he's Puerto Rican, he's a man of color, and he's a man and he's been in the industry. So he gave it to me exactly the way that I needed to hear things. And I felt very, like, he made it very comfortable for me to like share my experiences, because I would, people wouldn't call me back. Right. I would get on the phone, or if I got on the phone with them, or they see me in person, they say, oh, have your broker call me. And I'm like, nope, this is it, baby. Like,
this is the broker you're talking to.
Yes. It's like, this is it, baby. That's it. That's all you're going to get. It's just me. So there is no, Wizard of Oz. Right. And so then you could visibly see them change, like switch their body.
Mm-hmm.
They treating me like a peon, or attempting anyway to treat me like a peon. And so it was really important to have, I think, at that time when I was starting out, a male who got it, and and I have a man who was super honest about and aware of how women were treated in this industry, and it wasn't dismissive. And I say that because it's another side that they'll never show the women, like the other agents, the industry, they'll never show the women. They'll talk, so I got good inside knowledge. And so for one example is, I had a client and we found a space and she loved it. And we said, okay, I called the other agent. I said, hey, this is our use. This is, how much we want to pay. These are their financials. This is their credit score. We want to, sign something in the next 30 days. Wonderful. And they were super excited about it, texted me like, hey, we didn't get the package yet. It was like 5 minutes later. And they're like, super excited about the deal. And then I sent over everything. And they were like, oh, first of all, they took like a week to get back to us. And then they said, oh, we don't think it's going to be a good fit. Now this is a tenant, 800 credit score, been in business a long time, proven track record, excellent cash flow, had just gotten an influx of, a lot of money from an investor. And we showed all of that. The only difference was their name was an ethnic one.
Fair Housing Act, but you can't prove it though. That's the thing.
Yeah, but that doesn't.
Yeah.
Also, that doesn't
that's
apply
right.
in commercial.
Right.
That doesn't apply in commercial. They can lease to whomever they want to. And I asked my mentor, and I said, hey, this seems to be the only difference. And he said, call them out on it. And I did. And they were like, stuttering. That was exactly the case. And then you move on, because even if they were like, oh no, that's it, we've rethought, we want you in the space, I'm never going to put my client in a space like that, because they're not going to be treated well as
exactly tenants. Yeah, it's always going to be something like lurking, hanging over their head, like that air of suspicion.
Yes, exactly right. So I've been blessed to have many mentors now who are in different states. Some are specialized in office, some specialize in retail, some specialize in foreign investors, which is an area I want to eventually grow into. So, and they're super honest. And I just say, anybody who's interested, any Black woman of color, you're interested in getting into commercial real estate, talk to everybody, and be transparent. Don't, like, I know it's cliche, but don't be afraid to ask a question that you think is stupid, because literally every deal is different. Every commercial real estate deal is different. Different things apply. You know, you have different types of leverage with one tenant client or one landlord than you would have with another. And so you need to be able to maximize and advocate for your client the best way you know how. And if you're not asking for help, if you're not asking the stupid, you know, quote unquote stupid questions, you know, that you might be embarrassed to ask because you feel like you should know it, you're not being a good realtor. You're not being a good realtor. You're not being a good advocate for your client, because you're not doing the most that you can do to be equipped with the knowledge that you need to have to serve them. So I you know, just ask me, call me, DM me. I love people, text me. Yeah, but it's you know, I get up against the wall a lot. And I'm 6 foot, and I just did a show. We were talking about, you know, your appearance, and you know how that can be a distraction. So especially as a woman, you know, I'm nails, right? I'm hair, I'm 6 foot, you know, so it's just you're navigating that. It's navigating your body image and people's assumptions of you because you're a woman, or because you dress you know, like all of the feminine energy kind of things. So you just keep going. Just don't stop. And people will try you, but don't stop.
Yeah, I always say use that like diversity, use that different look to stand out and take it to your advantage, because you're like memorable. Like you can't forget you in a, you know, a room or industry full of, you know, older white men. You obviously stand out. So
well, thank you. Yeah. And you know, just sprout, you know, just sprout. Like, we just get into commercial people. Anybody that can hear my voice, just, it's wonderful.
all right, so that's a good segue to talk about your show, Shop Talk. So just tell us a little bit about that, and, you know, types of people that you've been dealing with, and any, you know, like really memorable interview that you did.
Yes. So so Shop Talk was born in the pandemic because I needed a way to continually connect with potential customers or past clients. I wanted to have some touch points. So I do things like I go canvassing. And for those of you who don't know what canvassing is just really going door to door to businesses with a flyer that says, hey, you know, these are the properties I have available for you, or hey, I do tenant rep, depending on who I'm trying to get, and just meeting people and letting people know, hey, I'm your local commercial realtor. We do that about twice a week. You know, you can have help. And it lets them know, as a tenant, you don't pay me. So remember, people, that is always leverage that you can get if you want to serve tenants. The landlords are paying your fee. Very few times have my tenant clients had to contribute to my commission. So that's always, you know, a way. A lot of people don't know that, and it discourages them from using tenant representation. So I wanted a way to do that. And I was like, oh, I can't go outside. You know, they're going to look at me like I'm poisoned if I try to go knock on their door. They're probably not even in the stores right now.
Right.
I'm like, what can I do? And I wanted people to be successful. That's my thing. Like, I don't like to put people in a place that they're not going to be successful. So I'm like, what can I do to make these people's business, to increase their bottom line? And I was like, you know, do a small business series. And I did. And at first I was like, I really don't watch this, but they do. And it's been good. All of my clients have said, like, you know, yeah, people have stopped in. You're not clients, but all of my interviewees, they stopped in, like, yeah, people stopped in, or people called up, or, you know, and so that always makes me feel really good. I got my first like promotional code. So that was a really memorable one. So I was like, oh, I feel like an Instagram influencer now.
You are, though. You are, for sure, man. I definitely watched some of your episodes, and everybody loves Terri.
Oh yeah, I love them. And so I think the most memorable one, so it was that one, and then it was my very first one, which I didn't know at the time, like Instagram cuts you off at a hard 59 minutes and 59 seconds. So we were just talking, and it cut off, and it was like, we gotta come back on. So we came on, it was like an hour and a half, like for my first one. But the crazy thing is, people stayed. It was like third, like I think, you know, when you made the number, like I think our number stayed at like 30, maybe like 15, 30, something like that. It's a big difference, but it stayed. I was impressed. And then, you know, I was impressed with how many people like just stayed, because it was so good, and the energy was, and my guest was just dropping gems. And then my latest one was Tuesday, and a mutual, well, I guess now, but a connection of hers saw us together and then invited me Wednesday to be on her show Thursday. And then so I made my TV debut yesterday, Thursday night.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's, and you know, and then I've done a couple deals. So two of them I'm currently we're working with lease. They're at different stages of finding another property, but I'm about to sign the lease with one of my guests. And then I have referrals from probably like 5 or 6 guests, and so we're, you know, we got clients out of those referrals. So everybody has been winning. We've been getting business, and they've been getting business, and it's just a lot of fun. It's meant to be uplifting. It's meant to highlight the business and be uplifting for my guests.
Awesome. I love us. We always find some creative ways to do what we need to do. So that's awesome. And it's, you know, keeping you top of mind, obviously getting you referrals, getting you in front of people that you wouldn't have met before. So that's dope.
Yes.
Sure.
And it's opened so many, like, just doors. Like you said, the top of mind. I've, you know, people I'm like from like big companies, like their VPs of real estate have just like called me. I was like, yeah, I saw your thing. I got your number from such and such. I just want to say I like what you're doing. And I'm like, I'm on your radar. All right. Well, thank you. Send me some referrals.
Right. When's your next deal? Come on, let's get to work.
Do you partner with small brokerages?
Right.
But yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. So this was a dope conversation. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. So we're going to go to the last segment, which is the Fabulous Four. I ask all the guests these same questions. So just, you know, fire away off the top of your head. So the first question is, what is your favorite real estate book?
So my favorite real estate book would be Don't Say No for the Prospect by Beth Azor. I mean, it's great. She has a wonderful story in there about how she ended up saying no to the founder of Blockbuster back in the day, just because, you know, he didn't fit a certain kind of mold. Mm-hmm. Right. And she said, and then, you know, a couple months later, she looked up and he had 30 stores.
Right. So and it's also like about the confidence, like you think, oh, they don't want to come here. And you saying, like you said, saying no for them.
Yes. Don't say no for them. They, you know, cause they might. So that is I think that really changed my life, like my commercial real estate life, because I never even thought of canvassing before, you know, like I said, my confidence, I'm like, maybe they want to come in here, maybe they don't. So that's something that I read and, you know, kind of go back to all the time. And if I may, there's another book, I can't think of the author, so forgive me, but right now, but it's called Through the Psychology of Being. And so it teaches you about your deficits. And so when we're operating from our deficits, like love, health, you know, safety, all of that good stuff, we're making decisions out of desperation, and we're not, you know, not thinking long term, not thinking like a well-rounded thoughts. So that's another book I would recommend everybody listen to.
No, that's dope. Especially that's, you know, so key in these times, like with the pandemic. I know when it first happened, people were like, oh, the world's coming to an end. We don't know what we're going to do. Like, so people were operating, like you said, out of desperation and uncertainty. And it's like, all right, you got to just take a step back and think strategically about stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And I saw you had Beth on your show. She's definitely like the GOAT of retail leasing. She has her own shopping centers. Like, she's a beast.
She is, and she's so giving. She's so giving. It's just, it's crazy. Like, I'm so glad that we have women like her in the industry, and just people like her in the industry. It's like, I'll give it away, because you know, I'll give it away. You just do it, just do it. And she really wants people to be successful. So yeah, it's super dope. She's amazing.
All right. So the second question is, what advice would you give to your younger self when you were just getting started out with real estate?
Oh, oh goodness, that is a great question. So the best piece of advice I would give to my younger self would to be to I wish I would have started sooner. I wish I would have started sooner. I wish I would have, not let people get in my head. Because I did think, I was like, well, do I need to do residential? Isn't it as hard as they say? Who wants to walk into a room, the room being commercial real estate, like, who wants to walk into an industry full of resistance, But I mean, I did. But I wish I would have done that, like, from the very beginning, from the very first day. So just start sooner, and don't let people get in your head.
Yeah, for sure. I know a lot of people of color that are successful in this industry is like that kind of push them harder, that motivate them, because it's like, all right, it's not that many people like us, so let me be the first one to kind of, break the mold.
Yeah, exactly right. And we're very different because, we, like I said, we specialize in small assets. So we're very specific about who we want to serve, the type of tenant that we want. And a lot of people are, do commercial, like, we do everything. We don't do every asset. We do retail and office space, some multifamily. We have someone on my team that does that. And we serve the small assets. So we're not going after everything. So you have to be very confident about who you serve. Like they say, the riches are in the niches. So, don't be afraid to pick one thing. And if you don't like that one thing, then you can change. But focus your energy on who you want to serve and how you want to serve them.
That's great advice. The riches are in the niches.
The riches are in
the niches. All right. So the third question is, what do you personally want to learn more about when it comes to real estate?
Yeah, so I am so interested in foreign investing. Like, I personally want to have factories and homes in Ghana. I love it. I've never been. I want to go. And just from what I've been reading, and the country is very welcoming for people, Black people, American Black people, to come there and start businesses and things like that. And I am obsessed. So I want to find a way and learn more about foreign investing and what that looks like, and how I can help people start businesses anywhere, but especially like in Africa, Black countries. That's what I want to do, because there's not enough places for people to make money. So I always like when I see businesses who are doing trade with creatives in different countries and paying them a fair wage there. I think that's so important. I'm a very communal person, so I don't feel good until we're all good.
Cool. I think Ghana is one of these countries that we're like really trying to get Black people into the country. Like, they're offering to give them land and give them money for their business and all that. The way things are looking in the U.S. right now, that might
be. Yes.
Sure. So, but I digress about that.
No, it's true. No, it's true, and that's why I'm like, okay, it's something like they want. They're like when you ever see Dave Chappelle show, they're like, come,
Yeah, we want you here. We want you here.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The last question is, can you please give a shout out to another woman that's doing some amazing things in real estate?
Yes, and so I'm gonna shout out Miss Nina Edmonds. She is so dope. She's a realtor here in the Atlanta area, and she's on the residential side. And I was blessed to kind of see the beginnings of her career and just like how she's progressed through the residential side. Excuse me. So I think she's doing wonderful things here in Atlanta, and she's a wonderful referral partner to me. So she's a knockout.
Cool. And then you also wanted to mention your shirt from Miss Sylvia.
Yes. So here's my friend Sylvia Garcia. Sylvia Strong. I don't know if you guys can see that. So it was a breast cancer awareness, and I just wanted to go ahead and shout her out. She is an amazing human being, and she's fighting the good fight. I met Sylvia working out at 5:00 in the morning, and I'm a morning person, but when I say this lady is so dedicated about her goals, she is a beast. She is a beast, and so she is holding that same energy for her current fight with breast cancer.
Amen. God bless her. Definitely,
Yes.
wishing her a speedy recovery for sure.
Definitely.
All right, cool. So how can people get in contact with you? How can they check out your show? How can they reach out if they want to do business with you?
Yes. So the best way to contact me is my email address, Terribrooks at atlantaintown.com, or you can call me at 404-369-0986. You call me, text me, and then you can follow me on Instagram at Terri, that's TERRI _ the real estate matchmaker. So that's Terri _ the real estate matchmaker. So you can come join the fun. Shop Talk is every Tuesday at 6:00 sharp. And it's a lot of laughs. It's a lot of fun. And then you can go back and watch some past episodes on my IGTV if you're so inclined.
Dope. Thank you so much, Terri. This was so fun conversation. Like, you're a ball full of great energy. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jessica. This was the bomb. Thank you for this opportunity. Like, seriously, I can't thank you enough. If you get any follow-up, people are like, I want to talk to the crazy lady some more. Please send them my way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we need to get some more Black women in commercial real estate.
Yeah, for sure. And shout out to Andrea Morgan. She's the one that, connected us. So appreciate her. Thank you again for coming on the show. This was dope. So for sure. All right. So everybody, thank you for tuning in. This was another episode of the Pretty Girls Love Real Estate podcast. Thank you for joining us, and see you next time.